Allie Beth Stuckey was just blasted by Hillary Clinton. Today, we're going to react to her response. We've been tough on Allie. So how did she do? Stay tuned to check it out, and stay tuned to the very end for one of our biggest criticisms of Allie's response, although there won't be many. All right, welcome to FreeThinking Ministries, a podcast where we seek to help people reason together by applying logic and sound theology to all aspects of life. I am your host, Josh Klein, and Dr. Tim Stratton joins me today to discuss a recent article and reaction to that article by Hillary Clinton and none other than Allie Beth Stuckey. This is interesting, Tim.
Yeah, you know, as a PhD theologian, I didn't realize that our former First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton, was also not just a theologian, but apparently a Christian theologian. I didn't know we had that in common.
Yeah, me neither. Me thinks there may be some projection in her article, but I think Allie does a good job taking it apart. Now, we've been hard on Allie's Calvinism, right? And for those of you who want to see that, you can see the video in the description where we kind of hit back on some of her explanations of Calvinism. But I think she hits the ball out of the park when it comes to cultural and political engagement and the church. And we think her reaction to the article by former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is right over the target, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'll just say, you know, we did pick on Allie Beth Stuckey's Calvinism, but we both think the world of her. And I should just say that many Calvinists, even though we think they're way wrong and inconsistent when it comes to their mechanics of metaphysical reality, they usually are very consistent when it comes to how Christianity ought to be applied in the public square and culture and in politics. And so I you know, and maybe that's because, you know, even though I'm not a Calvinist, I still consider myself to be Reformed. I don't think you can hold that label, Josh, but we're definitely part of the Protestant Reformation. We're not Catholic. With that said, I think, you know, Catholics do a lot of good things too. But yeah, just I'm really impressed with how Allie took down Clinton's response, and as she always does. I mean, we see this when she got into this in her debates on Jubilee. She's probably the nicest person you'll ever watch debate, while she just systematically destroys your arguments. But she's always so nice to the arguer while destroying the arguments. And so I think she did learn a lot from Charlie Kirk. I think Charlie was fantastic at that as well, and something that I'm always trying to get better at. And I've got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think she's.
So you agree that I have a long ways to go? Thanks a lot.
On all accounts, yes. Just kidding.
No, you're not.
Yeah, she does kind of kill her interlocutor with kindness in a lot of ways.
With kindness and logic.
Yes, kindness and logic. Kindness, care, and thinking clearly. I don't know. I was trying to find an alliteration there. It didn't work. Critical thinking. There you go.
Clarity.
There you go. All right. Well, before we get into it today, I want to ask you to do something for us. If you're watching this video, please like this video if you haven't already, or if you're listening to it on Spotify or on the Apple Podcast, please give us a rating. It really helps us out a lot. It costs nothing for you, as far as I know, and we would really appreciate that. Share this podcast, especially if you know Allie. Share it with her. This is looking at you, Seth Dillon. I don't know if he'll watch this, but, you know, got to shout him out if I can.
We've got some mutual friends.
Yeah. We just crossed 7,000 subscriber threshold here at FreeThinking Ministries on YouTube, and we are on our march to 10,000, and we want you to help us with that, but we can't do that without your help. So please like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And Tim, before we get into the clips that we're going to look at 7 clips of Allie's response to Hillary Clinton. What were your overall thoughts? I know we've both watched the full thing.
Well, as I kind of joked at the beginning, my overall thoughts was, you know, what a crazy world we live in when Hillary Clinton, of all people, seeks to tell other Christians how we ought to think and live, as Christians. I've got a lot more to say on that topic as we go on, but that's definitely what hit me harder than anything. I was like, man, does the left not have anybody that even remotely pretends to live and act like a careful thinking Christian, a biblical Christian? Look, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on Hillary right off the bat. But that's what hit me more than anything is Hillary is not in a position to lecture Christians about how we are living as Christians. She's the last person that should be lecturing us on that.
It's not like we can look at this in a vacuum, right? Like there's a long history, a long history,
right.
in political and public life of the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, and all of the things that come with that name. So to kind of have the audacity to come in and tell Christians, I can't believe you have influencers that are thinking this way and speaking this way. It does reek of hubris, but it's not like politicians aren't known for their hubris either. So it's not entirely surprising. So we're going to get into it. And as we get into it, I want to do something special. I want to invite anybody who's watching this video to do something. Once again, I promise you we're going to get into the video. But if you're watching this, you have a church and you want to know, well, how do I relate sound theology to all aspects of life? We want to help you out with that. So Tim, Thomas, and myself, I'm the only J in the group, but we'll be fine. We would love to come to your church, your school, your place, and put on an apologetics seminar. We're doing one this spring in the middle of Nebraska with some fathers and sons to come out and do that. We're doing one in March, and we're looking forward to doing multiple this year. If you're interested, visit freethinkingministries.com, click that Contact Us link, and we'd love to work with you on scheduling something soon. We cover a ton of ground for an affordable price, from apologetics to cultural engagement, to pastoral care. There's a little something for everyone. So shoot us a message and we'd love to connect with you. We're willing to go anywhere, almost any time. So don't hesitate to reach out. I think we both have our passports, so we could even do international. So Tim, are you ready to get into our first clip?
Let's do it.
Okay. So our first clip is at the very beginning. I did think that it was kind of funny that Allie started with "I love my life," and we're not going to watch that clip, but it was kind of funny that she did that.
That is that we are over the target. We have gotten to the heart of progressive manipulation. We looked at their lies straight in the face, that abortion is healthcare, that trans women are women, that no human being is illegal, and we said, no, I see what you're doing, and we are going to give that a name. And not only that, but we're not buying it anymore. You aren't going to exploit my compassion to support policies that are bad for my family and bad for the country. No longer am I going to allow my emotion to paralyze my critical thinking. And now they're afraid. This is the tool that progressives have used to capture women for a very long time.
Well, I love how she's like, hey, we see what you're doing. We're not blind to this anymore. We see your tactics here, and we're not going to fall for it anymore. We see what you're doing. We're going to give it a name, and we're just not going to let you get by with this anymore. And I love that attitude. And just that commitment to exposing these tactics that are so confusing, to so many in our culture today.
Yeah. And I think she named the emotional manipulation, right? She named those pieces, and it was very clear that she's saying, hey, the reason you're coming after me is I'm a woman, right? And so it's like, I think you and I have talked about this off air. I think sometimes on air, is there seems to be this thought that niceness is next to godliness, right? That we, well, we don't want to be perceived as unloving. We don't want to be perceived. Mm-hmm. So we need to toe the company line. We need to not take strong stances on things. We need to respond by going, oh, I don't want them to call me this name.
Yeah.
And I think she does a good job here of saying, no, that's not the way a Christian ought to respond. That's not the way we ought to respond. And when it's almost like standing up to the bully for the first time. And
Right.
you
Right.
say
Right.
no more, and they go,
Uh-huh.
well, that's not how you're supposed to react.
Right. Right. Right.
It's giving me a few of those vibes.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, Hillary Clinton wrote this article, I think in Variety, and she's basically saying, hey, Christian
Wasn't it?
influencers.
Wait. I think it was the New York Times.
Oh, you're right. Maybe New York Times. I thought it was Variety. I don't know. New York Times. You'll see it in the video. Anyway, she wrote an op-ed for someplace about the fact that Christian influencers are at war with empathy, right? And that they're just not decent anymore, and they're not. And of course, Allie wrote a book called Toxic Empathy. And now I would like to point out that I am an influencer. No, I'm not. But I like to think, you
have influence online.
Yeah, a fraction, a tiny fraction of influence. But I wrote an article that actually received similar angry responses when I wrote it, called "Of Truth and Empathy." You can find it on our article. So it's not that Allie's book came out of thin air. This was long in the making, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That people have been weaponizing empathy to get people to respond the way that they want politically. And I saw that, I think it was in 2022, I wrote the article. And I think Allie's book was published in 2024. So I saw that then. And so it's not just Allie, but she brought it to the forefront in 2024.
Yeah. And I think one problem in this conversation is that most people don't even know what empathy is. So, just a few weeks ago, I was out in California doing some ministry work out there, and I was talking to some atheists, and they were like, well, no, empathy is the most important thing of all. And I asked them to define empathy for me, and they couldn't even do it. I think most people, we use the word, and they usually probably are thinking about sympathy, but sympathy means caring about someone's suffering and wanting to help. And that's good. And empathy isn't always bad, but empathy means kind of, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're the one that wrote on this, but doesn't empathy mean that you're emotionally placing yourself kind of inside that person's skin, as it were, placing yourself in somebody else's experience so you can feel what they're feeling. So it really becomes all about feelings at this point. But look, I think that empathy is not bad, and sympathy is definitely not bad. Both matter, but empathy alone can sometimes, because it's so feeling based, can overwhelm careful, rational judgment. So I don't think that Allie's point is that compassion is bad by any means. She seems to be a very compassionate person, and a loving person, and Christians are commanded to love our neighbors. But the concern is that empathy, the empathy can be used politically to kind of shut down careful and critical thinking about whether certain policies can actually help families and people and society in general in the long run or not. So look, bottom line, compassion and wisdom have to work together. Compassion and rationality, love and logic. We have to keep all of this together. I think the biggest problem is when you're so focused on empathy, and empathy is, the pilot flying your ship, as it were. What you're saying, it really becomes the opposite of what Ben Shapiro says when he says facts don't care about your feelings. An empathy-led person is going to be, my feelings are going to run my life. And am I getting that right, Josh?
Yeah. And Allie, we'll get to it a little bit later, but she actually has a pretty good filter, I guess, for how to see when empathy is leading you astray.
Okay.
But when empathy, like you said, when empathy becomes the highest value, and you place truth under empathy, when it becomes a servant to empathy, that's a dangerous position to be in. And I think that's what people are asking you to do in a lot of situations. So let's get to our next clip.
Glorification of cruelty and rejection of compassion don't just shape the Trump administration's policies. Those values are also at the core of Trump's own character and worldview, and they have become a rallying cry for a cadre of hard right Christian influencers who are waging a war on empathy. My husband and I have this inside joke that we use all the time. A few years ago, our oldest heard us talking about her quietly, and she piped up from across the room and goes, "Is her name me?" And so whenever it seems like, wait, is that person talking about me? That's the question that I had in my head when I was reading this paragraph. The Christian influencers, is her name me? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. Here's what she goes on to say in this article. The day after taking the oath of office last January, Trump attended a prayer service at the National Cathedral. The Episcopal Bishop of Washington, Marianne Edgar Budde, directed part of her sermon at the new president. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. She goes on to say the right-wing Christian podcaster Allie Beth Stuckey called the sermon toxic empathy that is in complete opposition to God's word and in support of the most satanic, destructive ideas ever conjured up. Toxic empathy. What an oxymoron, Hillary Clinton says. I don't know if the phrase reflects moral blindness or moral bankruptcy, but either way, it is appalling. This is certainly not what I was taught in Sunday school, not what my reading of the Bible teaches me, and not what I believe Jesus preached in his short time on earth.
So let's take a second. Obviously, Allie's going to respond to some of this herself, and we'll listen to that. But I want to just consider what Hillary Clinton is saying here as well. First of all, the idea that toxic empathy is an oxymoron,
right,
would imply that you could never be too empathetic, right? That there's no such thing as so if it's an oxymoron, then you could never have somebody who's toxically empathetic.
That's right.
But you and I have both met people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Who are regardless of political system. It's like when somebody is toxically empathetic, it's like, man, have some of your own feelings, right?
Right.
You're constantly feeling other people's feelings. When somebody's like, I'm an empath, and be like, yeah, that's not great. You need to feel your own feelings so that you're not completely dragged away by someone else's. So this idea
and it's not just, I mean, I think also you could describe toxic empathy as somebody who is only feelings based and doesn't bring critical thinking and rational logical judgment into their deliberating scenarios. That seems to be extremely toxic, don't you think?
I would think so, and because it leads you down bad decisions, right?
Very bad.
If somebody is leading only in emotion and they're in a relationship and they're living only in emotion in that relationship, regardless of religious affiliation, political affiliation, and it's all about how does the other person feel? That's a red flag in a relationship.
Right. Yeah, but according to Hillary, that can't happen. You can't be too empathetic. You can never be have toxic empathy. So that just, I mean, Hillary she calls that an oxymoron, but I don't think she knows what that word means.
Yeah. I feel like I need the Princess Bride clip.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
But then she goes on to say, and she says, this is certainly not what I was taught in Sunday school, not what my reading of the Bible teaches me, and not what I believe Jesus preached in his short time on earth.
Yeah.
It's a lot of assertions there.
Right. Yeah. I have to wonder who her Sunday school teacher was, first of all. And again, she's claiming, knowing Hillary's background in public life. I mean, when I was first introduced to her in the early 90s, and being able to watch her career in public life, to have her now stepping in and lecturing Christians on who Jesus is and what he taught. And then she even brings up moral bankruptcy. Hillary Clinton lecturing us, these right-wing Christian influencers is what she is how she's referring to us, and lecturing us on moral bankruptcy is the epitome of absurdity, considering the source. What do you think?
Yeah. Like, of course, we don't want to commit, the genetic fallacy of she's saying
No,
something,
but it's
but
absurd.
but it is but it is absurd. So
Huh.
I mean, you can take both those things. First of all, it
Yeah,
could be absurd coming from her.
Right.
A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, so
Right.
perhaps she could be right. But even on its
could be.
face,
Right.
even on its in relation to this Bishop Budde, I don't remember how to
Right.
say the name. We did a live stream on that.
Mhm.
And first of all, we'll get to this in a little bit. She's misrepresenting. So talk about, hey, moral blindness or moral
Mhm.
bankruptcy. She's misrepresenting what Allie said or
Right.
what Allie was responding to. We'll get to that in a bit. And she's also misrepresenting this idea that when a bishop looks at the sitting president or president-elect of the United States and says, I urge you to have compassion on these specific people who are undocumented, and you're saying, I want you to have compassion on those people. Well, this isn't like those, if you have compassion on those people, other people don't experience the result of that quote unquote compassion. Like, the president has to consider all of these things and then make the best decision for the nation. And that might be a painful decision for some people, but he is not supposed to think in the minutia. He cannot think in the, hey, we might deport somebody who is here illegally, they overstayed their visa, we might deport them, and it's really hurtful for that family. He can't think that way. He has to think, we have laws, and I am the executor, however you want to say that, of those laws. And then in the minutia, you've got other systems that can kind of handle those things. But when you urge someone like that, think of what you're actually urging is for blanket amnesty, is for status quo, is to reject the very promises for which that you made when you were elected. So now your character could be, so to me, it's like, okay, yeah, it sounds great coming from the pulpit, but when you break it down, really the person in the wrong is that bishop in the pulpit.
Yeah, she really is. And and what she's, even what that so-called bishop was saying, is that it's, she's again appealing to empathy, because she's saying, but these people are scared. But look, it's not a human right to never be scared. Sometimes it's good to be scared. And for example, if you've committed a crime, well, you should be scared of justice. But just because somebody is scared doesn't mean, oh, well, I guess we can't enforce the law anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to, not feel horrible for, say, like innocent kids caught in the middle of all this mess. But that doesn't mean that we have to be unreasonable or irrational while dealing with this very real, complex problem. Now, Allie's response here is that Hillary Clinton critiques her without actually engaging the arguments that she's made. So the issue wasn't a call for mercy or compassion. Christians obviously affirm those things. The issue was specific policy implications connected to immigration and gender ideology. So Allie's point is that empathy should not automatically settle complex and political questions. If critics portray disagreement as cruelty instead of engaging the real concerns being raised, then we end up debating caricatures and fighting straw men instead of having an honest conversation about how best to help vulnerable people. So look, bottom line, there are a lot of scared people out there. And some of those scared people are criminals. Some of them are innocent. But so much of this fear and so much of the, one reason why there are so many scared people is because so many laws have been violated. The border was left wide open and so many unjust things happen. And now we've got to clean up the mess. And that leads to people being scared. But being scared isn't, it's not a sin just because somebody's scared.
Yeah. Well, and, Romans 13 actually says we should live in fear of the government if we're doing wrong things.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
Does not bear the sword for nothing. And people overuse Romans 13, and I get that. I've seen that on both sides of the aisle. People saying submit to the government at all costs. The revolution was wrong because of Romans 13. We can get into that later.
Yeah.
But when the government is exercising authority as God ordained it, then that fear is a healthy fear. Yes, people who are here illegally should be afraid to be deported because they're here illegally. Like that's that should be the dumb moment. All right, let's let Allie continue.
However, this example that she gives that I responded to, that I said is an example of toxic empathy and represents some of the most evil ideas on earth, is not in the quote that she gave of the sermon. She is betting that you will not actually go to my tweet and see the speech that I was responding to. What I'm responding to is this so-called bishop support of quote unquote trans kids. Here's that one.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
I mean, we covered this when this happened.
Yeah.
But the thing I want to say here is, it is so blatantly obvious that Hillary Clinton is being dishonest in this Variety article, saying, "Oh, see, Allie says that mercy in general is toxic empathy."
Yeah.
When, I don't think we should have mercy on doctors who are mutilating kids.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no such thing as transgender kids, just abused ones.
Right.
So that's where I would go with that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Let's get back to empathy here. Empathy means emotionally feeling somebody else's experience and their feelings becoming your feelings. So again, while sympathy and compassion means caring about others and wanting to help. So those are two different things, right? I can be sympathetic and compassionate without being empathetic. That doesn't mean that being empathetic is always wrong, but I just want people to see the difference here. David Wood would be a great example. I mean, he doesn't have feelings. He's a good friend of mine, right?
at least not in the way that normal people do. He has some but he has the incapacity to feel remorse, or he has literal blind spots when it comes to emotion. He can feel some emotions, they're just not normal.
I don't think he can feel empathy. I mean, I don't speak for him, but I think that's the case.
Yeah. Yes, because he's a diagnosed sociopath.
Right. Right. But he can recognize what's right, objectively speaking, and choose to live that way. And so he chooses to love. He doesn't have warm, fuzzy, loving feelings for people, but the dude loves people because he chooses to act that way. It's an amazing thing. Really. He loves his wife. He loves his kids. He loves people he is working with. He loves people he's interacting with. And the dude's hilarious at the same time. But it's a great example to show. And I don't even know if I'm very empathetic. I don't think empathy comes natural for me. But I think I'm very sympathetic and compassionate. But those are two different, those are just different kinds of things. But again, Allie's argument isn't that empathy is bad, but that it becomes dangerous when emotional identification replaces moral, rational, and logical judgment. So Christians are called to love all people. That's bottom line. David Wood does a great job of that, right? Even if he doesn't have all the feels, he doesn't get the warm fuzzies, right? But doesn't matter. Christians are called to love people, and love by definition, DC Talk did a great song on this in the 90s called Love is a Verb. It's not love as a feeling, but love is how you treat others, and love is how you act toward others. And love on top of that, and I write about this in my book, it at the very least, it's a desire for the best for another person, not just immediate emotional relief. Do you really want the best for others? So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I take it when I go and talk about love and communication and stuff with churches. Those of you who would like to have us come speak of you'll get this. When I come and talk about that, I think it was Thomas Aquinas that said, "Love is willing the good of the other." Right? It's desiring what's best for somebody. But our culture has, when you replace truth with empathy, we can say that we're loving by desiring what's best for people because what we think is best is for people to not feel a certain way. So we're saying, oh no, I really do love them because I'm desiring what's best for them. So I take it one step further. I go, it's willing the good of the other in accordance with what is truly true and what is really real. What is truly true and what is really real. So in reality and in truth.
Right.
You would call it, metaphysical reality, if we want to use those words.
Right.
And then that means feelings now have to be subservient to the truth. And I think we can say to will the good of the other, and a person who is in Hillary Clinton's position, and they say, well, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, because the good of the other is to not feel scared, is to not feel this way, is to feel affirmed in their skin. If a kid feels like, if a boy feels like he's going to be a girl at the age of 12, he should be a girl, then he should feel that way. And I'm willing their good. I go, no. It has to be in correspondence with what is really real and what is truly true.
Yeah. It has to be in correspondence with reality.
Yes. And if it's not, then you're not really loving the person. You're you're loving yourself, how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Especially if that leads to her getting elected.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a selfish motivation at that.
Absolutely. But even like it's also, it's the moral, I call it the moral preening or the virtue signaling of the reason I will the good. So that's, I'm doing air quotes. The reason I'm willing the good of the other, according to their feelings, is so that I can appear virtuous. That's still a very selfish way to love somebody, because right now, if I say, hey, a boy that thinks he's a girl is not a girl and shouldn't be treated as such, and anybody who does should be called a child abuser. That's me willing the good of that child, because I know the names I'm going to get called. I know the social costs that comes with.
Yeah, right.
And it corresponds with reality. So I like what you said there, but I guess that's the addition that I would make on that.
I like that addition.
It has to be with what is really real and what is truly true, or in correspondence with metaphysical reality.
Yeah. And I don't want people to think that we're just saying that feelings don't matter at all. I mean, I pay attention to my feelings, and they matter, but rational people try to bracket their feelings and emotions when making serious decisions. We do pay attention to them, and we have to ask, are our feelings corresponding to reality right now, or are they not? And I'm always telling people, hey, take your thoughts captive to obey Christ. Take your thoughts captive to obey reality. And then I'll say, not just your thoughts, but your feelings. Your feelings lead to thoughts, right? So take your feelings captive to obey reality. Because sometimes, and my wife and my son over the years have got sick and tired of me saying, are you taking your thoughts captive right now? Are you taking your thoughts captive to obey reality? But now guess what? When I'm not doing it, they'll do the same thing to me. And I'm like, oh, gosh, you're right. There's times I'm like, you know what? You're right. I am not keeping reality in mind. I'm letting my feelings pilot the ship here. And I need to be the one doing it based on logic and reason. So pay attention to your feelings. In fact, it's vital to pay attention to your feelings, because your feelings are often wrong. So rational people try to bracket their emotions when making serious decisions and grounding those decisions in facts and logic and evidence. But that doesn't mean we become cold robots.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I would say your feelings aren't necessarily wrong, but what you think they're telling you to do might be wrong. Like,
yeah. And sometimes I think feelings are wrong.
Because feelings are indicators, right? They're like dashboard indicators. And so if I'm feeling scared or afraid, I'm having that feeling, but does it correspond with reality? Like, it's not wrong to necessarily have that feeling, right? You see what I'm saying? It's not wrong to have the feeling, but the feeling, once once it's brought into correspondence with reality, I can start to train my brain. Oh, there actually isn't a person behind that corner, right? And so I don't need to be afraid. It's not bad that I was afraid, but now if I choose to act out of fear, it's because either I'm ignorant or I'm arrogant, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does that make sense? Like it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
necessarily, it's not necessarily saying, and I know you're not saying this. I'm trying to clarify for the audience as we're thinking. It's your feelings can lead you to do wrong things if they're not sifted through, because all they are indicators of your emotional state. They're not indicators of the truth.
Would it be right to say it like this, that our feelings matter, and so do the feelings of others, but our feelings are not infallible. And so we have to pay attention to them and compare it to reality. Yeah.
All right, let's keep trucking here.
Empathy means to be in someone's feelings. So it's different than sympathy. You feel for someone. It's different than compassion. That means to suffer with someone. And it's different than love, to seek the best for another person. Empathy actually means to feel how someone else feels. And it's not always bad, but empathy becomes bad when it blinds you to both reality and morality. You are so deeply in one.
Okay, so that basically covers everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
So Allie agrees with us. Let's just
all right
out there. Look at that. But I like the way she said empathy is wrong when it blinds you from reality and morality.
Yeah.
I think that is 100% correct.
Yeah. Reality, morality, and I'd add rationality. When one becomes illogical based on their empathy.
All right, we got about 3 or 4 more clips here. We're almost halfway through, but we want to take another moment to pause and ask you, if you're watching this video, to like the video if you haven't already, and comment below on whether you think empathy can be toxic. Do you agree with Allie and us, or do you agree with Hillary Clinton? Be careful with how you respond to that. Just type "I agree with Hillary Clinton" down below. It is also worth noting that Tim and I both also love our own lives and don't anticipate. We're both in very good health as well. Yeah. All right. All right. So
that's correct. Always a danger when critiquing Hillary Clinton. Maybe.
Yes.
At least that's the rumor. That's the word on the street.
That is the rumor. That's the alleged rumor. All right. All right, so she's going to go on, and by the way, it is the Atlantic, so points for me. She is going to go on and respond to this section. Let's take a look.
I've never been one to wear my faith on my sleeve, but that doesn't mean it's not important to me. Quite the opposite. My faith has sustained me and formed.
Before I go, could you see that Allie was stifling a laugh, even though she wasn't on screen? She had to actually stifle a laugh right there. Kudos to you, Allie. Kudos to you for stifling the laugh, but we could tell. Okay.
Me, saved me, chided me, and challenged me. I don't know who I would be or where I would have ended up without it. So I am not a disinterested observer here. I believe that Christians like me and people of faith more generally have a responsibility to stand up to the extremists who use religion to divide our society or undermine our democracy. Now, I just want to say that truth divides. I'm not worried about someone accusing me or anyone else of being divisive. That's not the purpose in anything I say. The purpose in what I say is to try to tell the truth in love as much as I can. But Jesus himself didn't bring peace but a sword. The truth divides.
I've been called divisive many times, even by other Christians, but that's simply when I point out that based on what they're saying or teaching or doing, that it's logically incompatible with the law of Christ, everything that Jesus said, taught, and exemplified. And when I back that up with logic and scripture, I have even from some pastors saying, you're being divisive and we're called to unity. And I was like, unity based upon truth and God's word. We don't just have unity for the sake of unity. We have unity based upon truth and reality. So, truth. People, whether it's Christians or Hillary Clinton, complaining about being divisive, spare me. Like Allie said, Jesus brought the sword because he is the truth.
And I think there is a moment, and you would agree with this, that you can be unnecessarily, not you specifically. I'm using the royal you here. I'm not charging you specifically with this. That a person could
Yes.
be divisive in an unhealthy sense.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Paul warns that against, especially in the church. We're saying, hey, if you have to, one of the ways that I've seen this is in theological areas like eschatology,
Yeah.
where people are like, you must believe in pre-trib rapture, or you can't believe in the pre-trib, or you must be,
Yeah,
and
you're
they
not
are
even saved.
yeah.
You hold a different view. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a different view, or in the creation debate, right? There's
Right.
like Protestia's going around sharing a bunch of William Lane Craig quotes recently about the genealogical Adam, which I roll my eyes at because I'm like, guys, this has been around since 2022. Like,
Right.
like it's like every now and then, I think every 2 months, somebody's trying to dig up a William Lane Craig quote. To some reformed group is trying to do that to see he's a Pelagian, he's an Apollinarian or whatever.
Yeah.
And so to me, that is the unnecessarily divisive stuff. Like when you are saying somebody is heretical in that sense of being outside the faith due to tertiary or secondary issues, there's an unnecessary divisiveness to it. That's different than when you are simply proclaiming what is the truth or an argument for a certain ideas of truth. Like even when you advance the argument of is Calvinism a different gospel, people be like, well, it's so divisive to the church. Be like, well, it's dividing because we're trying to figure out what the truth of God's knowledge, human freedom, it's dividing in that way, but it's not dividing and saying you people are evil or non-Christians if you don't have these tertiary or secondary beliefs. So
Yeah. If
does that
somebody's
make sense?
if people are committed to unity, and unity for them trumps truth, then we've got big problems.
Yes. And it doesn't mean you can't be unified in a place where you disagree on some things. Of course
right.
you can.
And Allie, and we disagree with Allie when it comes to Calvinism, but we're going to lock arms with her when it comes to this.
And we're going to lock arms with her when it comes to the deity of Jesus Christ. We're going to lock arms with her when it comes to the necessity of going to church and being somebody that
what really matters, the primary issues.
Yes, absolutely. So what I don't want people to see when they're listening to this or hearing this is being like, oh, Josh and Tim don't care about being divisive. No, we care. We just care about the wrong way to be divisive, and then there's a right way to divide.
Yeah.
And it's okay in the right way to divide, especially in the political sphere. If you're going to take a stance on abortion, that's divisive. If you're going to take a stance on transgender surgeries, that's divisive. But it's necessarily so.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. And it's done out of love.
100%.
100% out of love. So it's 100% love, 100% logic, 100%, put truth and logic on one side, love on the other, and it's 100% of both. It's not 50-50 split. It's not 60-40 or, 70-30. It's 100% of both.
And we don't bat 1,000. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes our reactions are poor. I get that. But
sometimes my feelings get in the way.
Yes. Not mine. I'm a robot. Just kidding. Of the two of us, I'm probably the more emotive person.
I don't know.
Especially when it comes to athletics. That's when I need rationality to take hold.
Yeah. Watching a Nebraska football game with you and your brother, that gets a little crazy.
That's fair. It's fair. I never denied that. Although my brother's worse than me. I'll just
John.
All right.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's the worst.
Yeah,
but
shout out to you, John.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're listening. All right. These next two clips, I think. Let me make sure I'm in the right. Yeah.
Wait.
Oh,
before we go on.
Yeah.
This is where Hillary was talking about herself being a Christian. I talked about this earlier, but I want to kind of hammer on this for a while.
Okay, go for it.
Because I think
the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So anyone can call themselves a Christian.
Yeah.
But that word actually means something. And, I usually define it as if somebody's going to call themselves a Christian, that means that they could also replace that and say, I am a follower of Christ, right? I am a committed follower of Christ. That doesn't mean you're perfect at it, but it means you are striving to follow Christ. That means one is devoted to and strives, albeit imperfectly, to follow the law of Christ, which is everything that Jesus said, taught, and exemplified, which also includes what Jesus's hand-picked apostles said and taught as well. So basically, in a nutshell, it's living as the New Testament teaches us to live. That's what separates us from Judaism. That's why Christians are not Jews and Jews are not Christians. But we overlap with a whole bunch of, moral beliefs. So we usually make good neighbors. But we know that as we have, or at least we have justified beliefs, who strives to live this way and who doesn't, based on how people live. And the Bible tells us that we can judge who real Christians are by their fruit. So let's look at Matthew 7:16 through 20 here, Sermon on the Mount, ESV. It says, "You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits." Now, a closely related passage is Luke 6:43 through 45, where Jesus connects fruit with the heart. He says, "For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit, for out of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks." And when Christians talk about what good fruit looks like, they often point to Galatians 5:22 and 23, talking about the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So the biblical idea is this: a person's life and character reveal what they truly follow. And we know who doesn't follow Christ by the way they live. It's pretty simple. So now look, I'm not omniscient, and thus I'm not the ultimate judge of Hillary Clinton's heart or her soul. But if anything is clear to my eyes since the early 90s, it's this: Hillary Clinton does not seek to live her life in such a way that seems to strive to be consistent with the law of Christ. Thus, I can say with confidence that she is probably not a Christian, right? It does not seem like she's an avid Christ follower. She might call herself a Christian in hopes maybe to persuade some Christian women voters, but in my educated guess, as Jesus makes clear that he will do, Hillary probably belongs to the class of people who will hear Jesus say, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Right? Now that's pretty harsh, right? But Jesus says he's going to say it. But that sermon or that passage is Matthew 7:21 through 23, immediately following the known by their fruit teaching in the Sermon on the Mount. So let me read that. That's Matthew 7:21 through 23. Jesus says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" So here's the deal. Jesus says profession alone is not enough. What matters is actually doing the will of the Father, not merely claiming allegiance. Now, we're not saying that works get you saved. What we are saying is that the way someone lives allows others to know, are they a follower of Christ or not? So now look, I hope I'm wrong about Hillary, and I could be, right? Let me be clear about that. I could be wrong, but I'm giving justified beliefs here that seem to be true. And that means this is probably knowledge, right? but so I hope I'm wrong about Hillary, but even if I'm right about her, because I'm sure she's going to watch this, it's not too late for Hillary.
Yes.
to repent and become a genuine Christ follower. And that's what's so awesome about God's grace, about the gospel. It doesn't matter how anybody has chosen to live in the past, or even how somebody is living right now. The atoning blood of Christ is powerful enough to erase all of Hillary Clinton's sins, not to mention all of my sins and your sins, Josh, and everybody else's. But as things stand right now, I'm just saying this is an educated guess. No, it's an educated judgment based upon data, a long list of data going back to the early 90s, that Hillary Clinton does not seem to be a Christian in the sense of the word, that she is a follower of Christ. And so therefore I would say that Hillary Clinton is the last person who should be giving Christians advice about how we ought to think and how we ought to live.
Yeah, I think, and I would reiterate all of that. I 100% agree with you. So in case people think we're at odds there, I agree with you. And I would also reiterate the fact that, I think for Christians to say, well, I don't know, she could be a Christian. I think regardless, the call should be to repent, because she is espousing anti-Christian beliefs and worldviews and asking people to follow those. She's going to talk about abortion in one of these next clips. And so even if she, quote unquote, is a Christian, she should still repent. But if she's not a Christian, she should repent and believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and she'll be saved. Second thing is, I wrote an article talking about the new cultural Christianity a couple of years ago. And I think this is what's happening, is that people are glomming on to the label Christian, because what is cultural Christianity in our current moment is progressive Christianity. And I make an argument, and we'll do a podcast on this hopefully soon. I make an argument that progressive Christianity, as it stands, is not little o Orthodox Christianity. It stands outside of Christianity, which means
they aren't following Christ.
Following Christ, and they aren't Christians. This is a different critique than Calvinism, to say, well, the gospel's different here, but they are following Christ as best they know how, given their convictions. I'm saying progressive Christianity stands outside, as much as Mormonism stands outside of Christianity. Progressive Christianity stands outside of Christianity.
I would say this. In some ways, progressive Christianity is far worse than Mormonism.
Well, it's worse, yes. But I'm saying as far as the boundaries go, yes.
Right. Well, I would say it's further from the truth.
Yeah.
Even if they affirmed the Trinity, you're following. I mean,
you're redefining truth, reality, and sin.
Yeah, I don't want people to misrepresent me here, to not hear what I'm saying. I'm saying that Mormonism is false,
or to hear what you're not saying. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? I am saying that at least Mormons do a good job of seeing how Jesus taught us to live and treat our neighbors and to treat others. They're usually pretty good about that. That doesn't mean they're saved, because they get really big things wrong. But they get that part right. And the progressive Christian, how would you describe it, Josh? Help me out here. Put some words in my mouth.
Well, I think the progressive Christian gets the purpose of Jesus's life, the aim of his death and resurrection, even if and most of them actually don't even believe those things, as far as I can tell.
Right.
They get all of the reasons behind those things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It is a gospel based on works with no actual grace or mercy, because you have to recant of your whiteness or your oppression or whatever.
Right.
So to me, they get the entire understanding of the gospel wrong. And so, see, the funny thing is I think they get sin wrong, because Mormons tend to get what is sin and not sin, morality.
That's the thing.
They tend to get that more correct. But the funny thing is they tend to have both of them tend to have a misunderstanding on what the purpose and effectiveness of Jesus' death and resurrection is.
Right.
So,
Now I'll say
which is why I put them together.
Right.
They get sin wrong, but they get those things.
Well, I like how you noted that they get that progressives get sin wrong. So that
Yeah.
means they don't know what it means to miss the mark,
Yes.
right?
So
And it's this missing of how we ought to live.
yeah.
And so if you don't know how we ought to live, and you think we actually ought to live in a different way that Jesus taught, then that's why I'd rather be around. I'd rather have Mormon neighbors than progressive Christian neighbors.
Yeah, because sin to progressive Christianity is more about group than it is about desire action. Anyway,
Right.
So all that to say, I'll end with this. Ephesians 5, with all of your fruit stuff that you were talking about with scripture, reminds me of Ephesians 5 that says, people go, well, why are you doing this? Why are you so harsh? Because Ephesians 5 says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them to the light. And so that's what we're supposed to do. And when the darkness is exposed to the light, what happens in the darkness is exposed to the light, it is painful for the people that are operating in darkness. And I think Allie's right in her initial part of this video where she goes, you can tell the screeching is because we're over the target, because the light has actually been shined on that particular area of darkness. So anyway, are we ready to move forward?
Yeah.
So I'm going to play 2 clips back to back. They're a few minutes apart, but she's going to say this, and then her actual response to the clip takes about 2 minutes to get to. So I'll play 2 back to back. Here you go.
View that enrages Allie Beth Stuckey, the author of Toxic Empathy, who styles herself as a voice for Christian women, has more than 1 million followers on social media, and between lifestyle pitter-patter and her demonization of IVF treatments, she warns women not to listen to their soft hearts. This commissar of MAGA morality targets other evangelicals whose empathy, she warns, has left them open to manipulation. Maybe they recognize the humanity of an undocumented immigrant family and decide that mass deportation has gone too far. Or they make space in their heart for a young rape survivor forced to carry a pregnancy to term and start questioning the wisdom and morality of total abortion bans. It's all toxic to Stuckey.
Okay, and this is basically her response to that claim in Hillary's article.
It's representing toxic empathy, of course. So we should just break that down for a second, because she actually gives me really good examples of what that is. You should recognize the humanity of illegal immigrants. They are image bearers of God, just like the baby in the womb, might I add. But their humanity does not justify failing to enforce our completely valid immigration laws. You should make space in your heart for rape survivors. But this should not lead you to justify killing a baby who is not guilty of anything. Like, if we want to talk about the death penalty in a rape situation, let's give the death penalty to the rapist, not to the baby. Hillary Rodham Clinton believes that babies should receive the death penalty for a crime that someone else committed. And then she would like to turn around and preach to us about morality and dignity.
Okay, so I think that is spot on.
100%.
If I could drop this mic, I would.
100% agree.
Yeah, so I think she hits the nail on the head when, the audacity to bring up abortion.
Right.
See, you just have no compassion for that woman who was raped and now she has to carry this child to term. How dare you?
Yeah.
And it's like, no. How dare you? Yes, of course it's tragic. Of course it's traumatic for the woman to carry that baby to term. No one's saying it's not.
Right. And we should help that girl.
Yes. And that baby should be put up for adoption. Or I know of a few people who were raised, like their mothers conceived them in rape and their mothers raised them.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, talk about heaping burning coals on an evildoer. Raising your rapist child to be a better person than the rapist could ever even imagine being is like saying, Joseph's brothers selling him into slavery and him becoming second in charge to Pharaoh. What you intended for evil, God used for good. To say, well, no, it would have been better if you just murdered the baby.
Right. Yeah. The wrong human is getting the death penalty there.
Yes.
If anybody deserves the death penalty, it's the rapist, not the baby.
Yes. And the appeal to empathy is there's no empathy appeal to the unborn infant because we don't have the capacity or ability to know what the unborn infant feels, right? It's impossible for us to put ourselves in the emotional state of an unborn child. We can't do it.
Yeah.
It's impossible. We can put ourselves in the emotional state of a rape victim.
Mm-hmm.
And so this appeal to empathy, the reason it's toxic is because in this scenario, your justice meter is completely swung towards the only person you can identify with in the scenario rather than the objective reality and morality of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking with a woman who's pro-choice not too long ago, and it was all, I was just trying to make a logical case that appealed to scientific data. I used that SLED test, the SLED. Have you seen that? Where you appeal to size, level of development, environment. What's the D? I can't think of the D now.
Degree of dependency.
Dependency, that's it. Thank
Yes.
you. So I'm the one appealing to logic. I'm the one appealing to science. And it was all empathy with her. And finally, and she saw all of my points and she granted all of my points. And then she said, but you've got to think about the girl who's going to have stretch marks. And I said, so you're putting stretch marks for you trump the life of a human? You're willing to kill another human being because of stretch marks? And she goes, but that you got to, she was just feeling so badly for that hypothetical girl who would have the stretch marks. So I think that's the toxic empathy. It keeps you from thinking clearly about a life and death situation.
And I think that's what Allie is pointing out. And ironically, it is Hillary who doesn't realize she's making the point right for her, right in that article.
Mm-hmm.
She's making the point right there. I remember seeing a video of, I think it's Abolitionist Rising. They're a pro-life group or an abolitionist group. They probably don't like being called pro-life. There's a whole, anyway. This guy went around and was saying, hey, to college students, hey, people are ripping puppies from the mother's womb and killing them before they are born. You want to sign this petition? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's horrible. They'll sign the petition. Same people, same couple that they talk to. The next one they go, oh, we find out that they're doing this to human children too. Would you sign the petition for? And they wouldn't sign the petition.
Yeah.
It goes to show that it's not about actually the morality. It's about the empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's about that empathy, and you have to cut through the empathy in order to get somebody to finally come out on the other side to see justice for what it really is in those situations.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Are we ready to move on to our final clip?
Let's do it.
All right. Hopefully you've stayed with us this long. Please give the video a like and share. Let's hear what Allie has to say towards the end here.
Empathy won't destroy civilization. Indeed, it might just save it. We can debate policies, we can debate theology, but if we give up on empathy, we give up on any real chance of coming together to solve our problems. Empathy does not overwhelm our critical thinking or blind us to moral clarity. It opens our eyes to moral complexity. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. She's completely wrong on that. There's a book called Against Empathy by a Yale psychologist named Paul Bloom. He's coming at it from a secular perspective. He argues that psychologically, empathy does arrest our thinking, and that when we use it to make moral decisions, we end up making bad decisions. He also talks.
Okay, so
100%.
I love the fact that she brought up, and of course she's prepared for this. This is how, because she wrote a book, so she's prepared for it. But she brings up, actually, it's not just Christians who think this. It's not just conservative Christian influencers. It's this Yale psychologist who I'm guessing is not center right.
And definitely speaking from a secular perspective.
Yes. And so recognizing, this empathy, I like the way it arrests our ability to think. All we can think about is how hard this must be. And you see that in parenting sometimes with one spouse or the other. When one's thinking empathetically, sometimes you can start to get at odds with each other because it's like, no, this is just, we have to parent this way in the situation. And you can't get out of that rut. So,
well, and you just said it, or I think Allie said it, this empathy arrests our ability to think. And so this is why we're called FreeThinking Ministries, is because we encourage people to pay attention to their thinking, how they're thinking, pay attention to their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings, and how these emotions and their feelings are impacting their thinking and ultimately their beliefs, and to be a rational thinker, not an emotional thinker. But when one is governed by empathy, they will be governed, or they will be led by their emotions, not by logic and rationality or truth. And so, I recently wrote an article. It's on our website, and it's about how this free thinking is so important. What did I call it? Just a second here. I'll take a look at it. Can't think of the title. I'm really having a hard time remembering things today. It's called "Who Has Bewitched You?" And then the subtitle is "Libertarian Freedom, Propaganda, and the War for the Mind." So I just want to encourage people to take a look at that. And Josh, I think you and I are planning a video based upon that article soon. But yeah, this whole empathy debate really connects to what I've been writing about for quite a long time, and even publishing in the academic literature, as well as articles on our website and videos on this YouTube channel, and talks that I've been giving at philosophy conferences. But and this is all impacting how people are, or at least it shows us how people can become manipulated and become these mass mobs of irrational people. They don't suddenly become irrational or manipulated, but it happens slowly over time when we stop guarding how we think, and when we start letting emotion and empathy replace careful reasoning. When that happens, propaganda and emotional appeals, although they might not just quickly eliminate freedom or free thinking, they do exploit neglected freedom, where we have used our freedom improperly in the past. So the real challenge isn't rejecting compassion or feelings for others, but it's making sure that our compassion is guided by truth and wisdom, so that we don't end up being manipulated into supporting stupid policies that ultimately harm the very people that we want to help, the very people that we've been commanded to love. And so, Josh, let's talk about this soon, but let's just, I do just want to point people to the FreeThinking Ministries website, and that is the latest article on the website. So take a look at it. Let us know what you think about it, and that'll give us something to talk about in our upcoming show.
Yeah, in the future, we will definitely discuss that. So there's one more clip we're going to get to here. This is the one critique that I have of Allie in this video. You've been waiting this long.
Yeah.
And so now the critique time has come. It's going to be hard hitting. It's at the very end. Let's let her take it away.
I always encourage people, get the ESV Study Bible. It's available on Amazon. It's not very expensive. Start in the book of John and go from there. Don't.
Okay.
Because you don't want people to start in John. Is that your critique?
That's it. You start in Mark, not John, first of all, because Mark is much easier to read. So I don't know.
No, that's not your complaint.
No, it's not. My only complaint, and it's not really a complaint. And in fact, this is kind of tongue in cheek, because I think the ESV is fine. But I also think the ESV is front loaded with a lot of philosophical baggage in some of their translations, particularly favoring Calvinism. So I would say get an NET study Bible, a NET study Bible. It is much more objective, in my opinion.
Well, I'll say this. I actually study out of the ESV. In fact, I quoted scripture from the ESV today here in this video.
Yes.
Now, I do want to agree with you. I do refer to it as the Calvinist interpretation, the ESV. But since I argue against Calvinism so much, I use the ESV because it's supposed to be the Calvinist interpretation to show that Calvinism, and especially exhaustive divine determination, is false. So I do study out of the ESV, and I like it. I've grown to really enjoy it. But yeah, I do think there's maybe a little bit of some bias in the
Yeah.
interpretation there, but it's still a good translation.
Yeah, that's why I said it's kind of tongue in
Yeah.
cheek. If you read it, if you have an ESV study Bible, I'm not telling you to get rid of it. Use it. I don't remember who it was that said, somebody asked, "Hey, what version of the Bible should I read?" And the response from the pastor was, "The one you will read." So it's like
unless it's the
unless it's the Passion
Watchtower
Translation or the Watchtower, or,
yeah,
you know,
get rid of that one.
an actual translation of the Bible,
Right.
not that stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah. So NIV, ESV, it's all good. This was just kind of tongue in cheek for me to be like, I can see why she would recommend the ESV Study Bible.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not just the translation; it's the Study Bible portion of it is definitely going to be front loaded with some of that as
That's
well.
true.
So if you have a Study Bible, recognize that every person that's writing in a Study Bible actually has ideas that are probably debatable on a lot of topics. So
Yeah.
Don't take the Study Bible as gospel. Those notes.
Mhm.
Those aren't inspired. Those aren't the inspired word of God. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, yeah. See, here we go. It's my
There
ESV
it
Study
is.
Bible right
There
here.
it is.
I like it. I like it.
It looks nice.
Yes.
It doesn't look very used. So I'm just kidding. Oh, okay. Tim, final thoughts as we close up this podcast. Going a little longer.
Just that, Hillary Clinton said that we can debate theology, and I was like, yes, please. So I hereby challenge Hillary Clinton to a debate on theology
and the theology of theological anthropology and human dignity and where it begins.
Yes,
because that's a theological question, not a political question.
Yes, and what we've done today
Yes.
is we've shown the theological foundation, where empathy belongs on top of that foundation. And if we're going to seek to reason together, Isaiah says, "Come, let us reason together, saith the Lord." Isaiah doesn't say, "Hey, come, let us feel things together." So we did provide a theological account for how we ought to think about empathy today.
Yeah.
We start with theology, and we make sure that logic and sound theology impact everything else we talk about here on this channel. And that includes politics. So when people think, "Hey, aren't you just getting political now?" Like, well, no, we're starting with theology. We're starting with logic and sound theology. And then we're letting that lead us to the truth in all other areas of life. So that's what we do here at FreeThinking Ministries. That's our mission. And I think we did it today, Josh.
I hope we did. Let us know if you think we did. Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that we overstated? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to debate you. Not really necessarily, but we'd love to have a discussion anyway about all of those things. Hey, if you like what you heard and you would hit that you would hit the like button, hit the notification bell. So next time you can like what you hear once again when we talk about that article that Tim mentioned. And also, if you're going, you know what? I think my church could use some of this, discussion, could use some of this training. Contact us. You can contact us on freethinkingministries.com. Click that contact us button. We'd love to hear from you. All right, that's it for us today. And until next time, like we always say here at Free Thinking Ministries,
stay reasonable.